The story I'm about to tell took place in 1987, and it almost caused an international crisis between Palestine, Iraq, and Morocco. Strange, right? Especially considering these three countries together. There must be something unusual. So, what was this issue that strained relations at that time? In 1997, the Iraqi ambassador extended an invitation to the Palestinian ambassador for dinner. The Palestinian ambassador at that time was named Abu Marwan. The dinner took place at the Iraqi embassy, located in the Suisi neighborhood in Rabat. This neighborhood was one of the most upscale areas, home only to businessmen, important figures, ambassadors, merchants, and intelligence officers. It was a place where one would never feel unsafe. After finishing dinner, the Palestinian ambassador went to his car, only to discover that it had been broken into. Someone had smashed the window and stolen a bag from inside. This bag contained official embassy documents, sums of money, and, most alarmingly, a special pistol. The weapon was a Russian-made handgun with a silencer, typically used in assassinations. Even more dangerous, it contained explosive bullets. These bullets, upon penetration, would explode inside the body, making survival almost impossible. Less than a 5% chance. Everything had disappeared. The ambassador was furious, especially since his car was parked right in front of the Iraqi embassy, where he had been invited. Security personnel were summoned, and the Moroccan authorities were immediately informed that the Palestinian ambassador's car had been targeted. But this wasn't just an ordinary theft. Far from it. At that time, the world was dealing with tense political situations, including the Palestinian issue, Black September, the Abu Nidal group, and various other incidents across the Arab world and Europe. The theft of a Palestinian ambassador's weapon raised serious concerns. The Moroccan authorities feared this was a planned operation, possibly an attempt to frame the ambassador, or even worse, use the weapon for an assassination. How could someone, in the safest neighborhood at that exact moment, have chosen to steal from the Palestinian ambassador's car of all places? Investigations began immediately. Authorities collected fingerprints, questioned suspects, including employees at the Iraqi embassy and residents of neighboring houses, and examined every potential lead. Despite their efforts, they found nothing. The thief had been extremely careful, leaving no trace behind, no fingerprints, no witnesses, and no cameras in the area. This terrified Moroccan authorities. Whoever had stolen the weapon was likely a professional. Days passed, and the investigation continued. Then a disturbing report came in. A security guard at a large construction warehouse had been killed. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found he had been shot with an explosive bullet. Upon forensic examination, they confirmed it matched the stolen weapon from the Palestinian ambassador's car. This meant that the thief and the killer were the same person. But why would someone kill a warehouse guard? Strangely, nothing had been stolen from the warehouse. It was a storage facility for construction materials, iron, cement, and other supplies. The authorities could not understand what connection, if any, this guard had to the stolen weapon or the Palestinian embassy. Further investigations yielded another shocking discovery. There was a gas station next to the warehouse, operating 24/7, yet none of the workers had heard a gunshot. That was when authorities realized the weapon had a silencer. Still, they had no leads. Days later, a government employee was walking home in the same Suisi neighborhood. As he approached his building, he encountered an unknown man sitting on the stairs. It was dark, and the man asked him for a cigarette. The government employee replied, If you want a cigarette, ask politely. I don't work for you. The unknown man, offended, insulted him in return, pulled out a gun and shot him in the thigh. The victim screamed for help, but the attacker fled. The problem: the bullet was explosive. It tore through the man's arteries, causing massive bleeding. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors had no choice but to amputate his entire leg to save his life. The case was immediately reported to authorities, and forensic experts confirmed that the bullet matched the stolen weapon. Moroccan authorities were both confused and relieved. The thief was not a terrorist, just a reckless criminal using the gun for robberies and violent attacks. Still, they needed to catch him. When they interviewed the victim, he said he hadn't seen the attacker's face clearly, but he described him as tall, muscular, and quick-moving. This was enough to narrow down their search. The robberies continued in the same neighborhood. One night, an intelligence officer living in Suisse heard strange noises upstairs in his villa. His elderly father lived in the villa next door. The officer rushed to investigate and realized that a thief had broken into his father's house, stolen all his mother's gold jewelry, and then jumped onto the officer's villa to rob it too. When the officer went upstairs, he saw a figure jumping across rooftops with extreme agility. He chased him, but couldn't catch him. The authorities now knew they were dealing with someone highly athletic and skilled in evading capture. The next day, another villa in the neighborhood was robbed. Then another. In total, 41 villas were broken into, each belonging to diplomats, businessmen, or high-profile individuals. The stolen items were mostly gold, jewelry, and valuables. This was a major embarrassment for Moroccan authorities. How could 41 homes in the most secure neighborhood be robbed? They needed help. They called in Brigadier Helmi, a renowned investigator known for solving the most complex cases. After reviewing the files, he noticed a pattern. Most of the stolen items were gold and jewelry. He devised a strategy. Instead of chasing the thief, he would track the stolen gold. He sent teams to all the gold shops in Rabat, warning them that if they had purchased stolen gold and failed to report it, they would face legal consequences. At first, no one spoke up. Then, one shop owner admitted that a suspicious man had tried selling him gold at a very low price, but he had refused. He directed them to another jeweler who might have purchased the gold. When confronted, the second jeweler panicked and confessed he had bought stolen gold from a well-known man in the black market. He also provided the thief's address. The police raided the location and arrested an elderly man, the father of the main suspect. At first, they found nothing. But then Brigadier Helmi noticed something. The old man was sitting on a box. Inside the box, all the stolen gold and valuables from the 41 villas. They arrested the old man and his son, who finally confessed. He admitted that he used to work as a gardener and handyman in many of the villas he later robbed. Since he knew the schedules of the wealthy residents, he could strike when they were away. When questioned about the weapon, he admitted to stealing it but claimed he had thrown it away. However, when authorities brought in the man who had lost his leg, he identified the suspect. The thief then confessed. He had shot the government employee in a fit of anger. He also admitted to murdering the warehouse guard. The reason? The guard had once fired him and his stepfather from their job, and he held a deep grudge. In the end, justice was served. The warehouse owner took care of the murdered guard's children, buying them a home and covering their education. As for the thief, he was sentenced to death. And with that, our story ends. May you be in God's care. Peace be upon you.